God says, "Today I send your financial miracle. It's for you." Daily prayer. Welcome back to the journey of wisdom. In a world filled with noise about fluctuating economies and financial pressures, we often pray for a miracle, hoping for a sudden windfall. But what if the true financial miracle God sends us isn't just a check in the mail, but a profound change within our own hearts and minds? Today, we're exploring how the divine gifts of clarity, courage, resilience, and peace are the real keys to unlocking not only financial stability, but lasting happiness and personal growth. These aren't just ideas to reflect on, they are principles to live by, starting today. As you watch, think about which of these gifts you need most in your life right now. A whisper of a promise in a noisy world. There's a phrase, an echo of hope that many of us are holding on to today. You may have seen it, or perhaps you felt it resonate deep within your spirit. It's the very title of our time together. God says, "Today I send your financial miracle. It's for you." It's a beautiful promise, isn't it? It feels like a cool drink of water on a hot, weary day. It speaks of relief, of release, of a long-awaited breakthrough. But let's be honest with each other for a moment. As friends sitting across a table, we are living in the year 2025. And when we lift our eyes from that beautiful promise and look at the world around us, the picture can feel complicated. The price of groceries at the checkout line seems to have a life of its own. The news is a constant stream of updates about the economy, about new technologies like AI, and how they're changing the job market faster than we can keep up. For many of us, the idea of retirement feels like a destination that keeps moving further away. The cost of taking care of ourselves and our loved ones weighs heavily on our minds. After years of global ups and downs, there's a quiet, collective exhaustion that has settled into our bones, a decision fatigue that makes even small choices feel monumental. So, in a world like this, amidst the headlines about persistent inflation, the fluctuating numbers on the stock market, and the relentless pressure of just making ends meet, what does a miracle like that even look like? What form does a divine financial intervention take when the everyday challenges feel so very human? That is the question we are here to explore together. And the answer, perhaps, isn't where we've been taught to look. The financial miracle that you are being promised today might not be a winning lottery ticket. It may not be a certified check arriving in the mail from an unknown relative, or the sudden discovery that your bank account is miraculously full. Those things can happen, of course, but more often, in a world as noisy and demanding as ours, the miracles that last, the ones that truly change our lives, are of a different nature. Perhaps the real miracle, the one that God is truly sending you today, is something deeper, something more durable. It is a change on the inside. A gift sent first not to your wallet, but to your spirit and your mind. Because what good is a sudden windfall if the anxiety that plagues you at 3 a.m. is still there the next day? What good is a paid-off debt if you haven't been given the wisdom to avoid falling back into it? Think about the sheer number of decisions you have to make before you've even had your second cup of coffee. Decisions about money, about family, about work, about health. It's a constant mental load. What if the miracle today isn't a check, but the sudden gift of absolute clarity on the one next step you need to take? Not the whole 10-year plan, just the very next right thing. What if the miracle isn't a lump sum of money, but the quiet, unshakable strength to face your financial statements without the crushing weight of shame or fear? What if it's a creative idea that lands in your mind, an idea for a small business, a new way to use your existing skills, a solution to a problem at work that holds the seed of your future prosperity? This is a different kind of miracle. It's not passive, it's empowering. It's not a one-time event, it's the beginning of a new way of being. It's the gift of the internal resources you need to navigate the external world with grace and wisdom. It's a gift of peace in the middle of the storm, which allows you to see the path forward when others only see chaos. This is the promise that is truly for you today, a promise of an internal shift so profound that it will inevitably reshape your external reality. And to recognize it, to truly receive it, we have to learn to tune into a different frequency, a frequency that exists above the constant static of our daily fears. We have to learn to listen for the whisper of that promise in a very, very noisy world. Redefining miracles, invisible gifts for a visible world. So, if this modern miracle is an internal gift, what does it feel like when it arrives? How do we recognize these invisible gifts meant for our very visible world? They often don't announce themselves with trumpets. Instead, they manifest as distinct, powerful shifts within us. Let's explore what these look like, because it's very likely one of them is already knocking on the door of your heart. The first miracle, the first gift, is often clarity. Think about the mental fog that sets in when you're worried about money. It's a haze of what-ifs, anxieties, and conflicting advice from every direction. It's trying to drive on a winding mountain road in a thick soup of fog. You can barely see a few feet ahead, so you either freeze up, paralyzed, or you inch forward with trembling hands. In this state, it's almost impossible to make a good decision. You're operating from a place of pure survival. The miracle of clarity is like the sun suddenly burning through that fog. It's not about seeing the entire 10-year journey laid out before you. It's simply about being able to see the next 100 feet of road with perfect, calm certainty. It's that sudden, quiet thought that cuts through all the noise. I need to focus on paying off this one credit card first, or that business idea I dismissed last year. It's actually worth another look. It's the moment a mother who loves to bake for her family suddenly sees her hobby not just as an expense for flour and sugar, but as a potential small business selling custom cakes to her neighbors. The ingredients were always there, but the clarity was the miracle that illuminated the path. This gift allows you to distinguish between a genuine opportunity and a glittering distraction, and that, in itself, is a form of wealth. The second miracle, which often follows clarity, is courage. And let's be very specific about what this courage island. It is not the heroic, movie-style courage to run into a burning building. It is a much quieter, and arguably much rarer, form of bravery. It is the courage to take the next small step. It's the courage to do the thing you know you need to do, the thing you've been putting off for weeks, months, or even years because of fear. It's the courage of a seasoned employee who has felt undervalued for years, to finally schedule a meeting with his boss to respectfully outline his contributions and ask for a raise. It's the courage to make that phone call to a financial advisor you've been too intimidated to contact. It's the courage to send that one email to a former colleague to see if they have any leads. It's the courage to open up the budgeting app on your phone, not with dread, but with resolve. It's the courage to start saving the first $10, a sum that seems insignificant, but which represents a monumental shift in habit and hope. This divine courage isn't about becoming fearless. It's about acting despite the fear, trusting that this small, trembling step is aligned with a greater plan. The third miracle, essential for any long journey, is resilience. The world can be a tough place. You will face setbacks. An unexpected car repair can derail your budget. A promising job interview might not lead to an offer. A project you poured your heart into might not succeed as you hoped. It's easy, in those moments, to fall into bitterness or despair, to see it as a sign that you should just give up. The miracle of resilience is the strength God gives you to get back up, but with one crucial difference. You get back up not with bitterness, but with wisdom. It's the ability to look at a failure And instead of saying, "I am a failure," you're able to ask, "What can I learn from this?" Resilience isn't about having a hard shell. It's about having a soft heart and a strong spirit. It's the grace to understand that sometimes a closed door isn't a rejection, but a redirection towards something better suited for you. It's the spiritual stamina that allows your hope to outlive your disappointments. This is the gift that turns stumbling blocks into stepping stones, ensuring that nothing you go through is ever wasted. And finally, perhaps the greatest and most foundational miracle of all is peace. This is the one that underpins everything else. The world screams that you cannot have peace until your bills are paid, your retirement is funded, and your accounts are overflowing. But the divine order is the exact opposite. This is a peace that surpasses all understanding, a calm that settles over your spirit even when your circumstances are in turmoil. It's the quiet assurance in your soul that says, "Even in this, I will be okay." Think of a person deep in debt. Their mind is in a constant state of panic, making it impossible to think clearly. They might take on a high-interest loan out of desperation, only making the problem worse. Now imagine that same person receiving the gift of peace. The debt is still there, but the panic is gone. With a calm mind, they are now able to sit down, look at their situation objectively, and create a practical, step-by-step plan to pay it off. They make better decisions because they are not operating from a place of fear. A truly great financial manager isn't always the smartest person in the room. They are often the calmest. This peace is the fertile ground from which all wise decisions grow. It is the ultimate miracle, because when you have this peace, you already possess the most valuable currency in the universe. The voice of heaven and the noise of scarcity. To receive these gifts of clarity, courage, resilience, and peace, we must first understand that our minds are like a radio receiver, constantly picking up signals from two very different stations. And every day, every hour, we are making a choice about which station we tune into. The first station broadcasts 24/7. It's loud, it's insistent, and its signal is everywhere. We can call it the noise of scarcity. This isn't a gentle background hum, it's a barrage. It's the voice that causes a tightening in your chest when you watch the evening news and hear another report on economic uncertainty. It's the feeling that courses through you as you scroll through social media, seeing curated snapshots of other people's vacations, new cars, and successful children. It triggers that primal, painful part of our brain that is hardwired to compare. The noise of scarcity whispers, and sometimes it shouts, "You're not good enough, you're behind. Other people are doing better, there will never be enough." It's a narrative of lack of money, lack of time, lack of opportunity, and ultimately, a lack of personal worth. This voice drives us to make decisions out of panic. It's the voice that convinces you to take a financial risk you're not comfortable with because you're afraid of being left behind. It's the voice that keeps you awake at night, replaying every financial mistake you've ever made. It is the architect of our anxiety, building its case with evidence from the world and from the deepest fears within us. This noise puts our nervous system into a constant state of low-grade alarm, a fight-or-flight response not to a lion in the savannah, but to a bill in the mailbox. And in that state of alarm, wisdom is impossible. But there is another station. Its signal is much quieter. It doesn't force its way in. You have to intentionally tune your dial to find it. We can call this the voice of heaven. This voice rarely, if ever, shouts. It is a gentle nudge, a quiet knowing, a feeling of rightness that settles in your spirit. It's the voice that speaks not to your fear, but to your highest, wisest self. While the noise of scarcity is chaotic, this voice is calm. It's the sudden, unprompted thought to call an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, a call that might lead to a connection or an idea you never expected. It's the distinct feeling of peace that comes over you when you decide to say no to a business deal that looks good on paper but just feels wrong in your gut. It's the quiet, profound realization that washes over you during a simple walk, that your true value as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with the number in your bank account. This voice doesn't offer quick fixes, it offers deep truth. It doesn't promise a life without problems, but it does promise a wellspring of peace within you that is bigger than any problem you face. So, the most critical question is this: how do we turn down the volume on the deafening noise of scarcity and amplify that quiet, life-giving voice? It is not a complex process, but it does require intention. It begins with creating deliberate pockets of silence in our loud lives. It starts by reclaiming just a few sacred moments from the chaos. Consider this practical guidance. For 1 week, try this. For the first 5 minutes of your morning, before you pick up your phone, before you turn on the news, before you let the world's agenda rush in, just sit in silence. Don't try to empty your mind. Just sit, breathe, and be present. You are creating a space for the quiet voice to be heard before the loud one has a chance to start its daily broadcast. Or try taking a walk. Just a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood or in a nearby park, but with one rule. No headphones, no podcasts, no music, no audiobooks. Just the sound of your footsteps, the world around you, and the thoughts inside your own head. You will be amazed at what you begin to hear when you are not actively drowning out the silence. It is in these moments of stillness that you can ask a simple question, not with your anxious mind, but with your heart. Today, what is the next wise and peaceful step for me? Don't strain for an answer, just ask the question and then let it go. The answer may not come as a voice in your ear. It may come later, as a clear idea while you're washing the dishes. It may come as a feeling of courage to make that phone call. It may come as a sense of peace about a decision you've been wrestling with. This is the practice. It is the work of a lifetime, done one day at a time. Choosing to consciously and consistently tune your inner receiver to the frequency of peace, of wisdom, and of heaven. And the more you practice, the weaker the noise of scarcity becomes, and the clearer, stronger, and more constant the voice of divine guidance will be in your life. So, as we bring this first part of our journey to a close, we can see the picture coming into focus. The promise of a financial miracle today is not a passive invitation to sit and wait for lightning to strike. It is an active invitation to partnership. It is an invitation to look within and recognize the priceless resources that God has already placed inside of you. The capacity for clarity, the seed of courage, the strength of resilience, and the bedrock of peace. This understanding isn't the finish line, it's the starting gate. It is the beginning of a new way forward, a journey of building true, sustainable prosperity from the inside out, founded on a platform of peace and wisdom. And this journey is so much more meaningful when we walk it together. Community is a powerful thing, and knowing we are not alone in our struggles and our hopes can make all the difference. So, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear your story. Think about this past week. Have you, perhaps without even realizing it until now, experienced one of these small miracles in your own life? Maybe it was a creative idea that seemed to come out of nowhere. Perhaps it was a quiet moment of courage when you did something you were afraid to do. Or maybe it was just a fleeting, unexpected feeling of peace that settled over you in the middle of a chaotic day. Whatever it was, I invite you to share it in the comments section below. There is no miracle too small to celebrate. Each story shared is like a single candle being lit in a dark room. It pushes back the shadows, and it just might be the light that another person, another traveler on this same path, needs to see to find their own way forward. Let's build a space of encouragement and real hope right here, together. And finally, if this message has resonated with you, if it feels like a timely word for your life, I would be honored if you would subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. In our next part, we will move from understanding to dialogue. We will step into a profound prayer together, a conversation with the Creator, to strengthen and solidify everything we have reflected on today. The Dialogue of Hope, crafting your daily prayer. Welcome back. In our time together so far, we've journeyed to an important realization that a financial miracle often doesn't arrive with a loud knock on the door, but as a quiet whisper of clarity in our minds, or a gentle rising of courage in our hearts. We've learned to recognize these profound, internal gifts. But a crucial question remains. In the middle of a busy, often stormy life, how do we keep these fragile seeds of hope from being swept away? How do we protect and nurture them so they can grow into something strong and tangible? The answer is found in the second half of today's title, Daily Prayer. Now, when we hear that phrase, many of us might think of a formal ritual or a list of things we need to ask for. But daily prayer, as we'll explore it here, isn't a list of demands. It is a dialogue. It is the sacred space and time we intentionally create each day to turn down the world's noise and listen for heaven's voice. It is the quiet workshop of the soul where we nurture our peace, sharpen our clarity, and find the strength for our courage. In other words, prayer is the act of watering the seeds of your miracle. So, in this next part, we will journey deeper. We won't just talk about why we should pray. We will explore how we can pray in a way that feels authentic and powerful in our modern lives, not as beggars hoping for a handout, but as partners, co-creating a future of stability and purpose with the divine. The 4 pillars of the prosperity prayer. An effective prayer isn't random. It isn't just a hopeful wish sent out into the universe. It's a deliberate and structured conversation built on a solid foundation. Let's explore 4 pillars that can transform your daily prayer from a moment of worry into a source of genuine power. The first pillar, the prayer of gratitude. Before we ask for anything new, we must first honor what we already have. This is the starting point, the non-negotiable foundation, and I'm not talking about a vague, generic thankfulness. True gratitude is specific. It's an act of paying close attention. The anxious mind is wired to scan for threats, for what's missing, for what could go wrong. That's its job. A prayer of gratitude is a gentle but firm act of retraining that focus. So instead of a quick, "Thank you, God, for everything," try pausing to get specific. Sit with your morning coffee and say, quietly to yourself or out loud, "Today, I am genuinely thankful for this roof over my head that kept me dry last night. I am thankful for the food in my fridge that will become my breakfast. I am thankful for the health in my body that allows me to get up and face this day, even if it's a difficult one. I am thankful for the love of my family, even with all its imperfections." What does this practice do? It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about consciously shifting your perspective. Scientific studies have shown that a regular practice of gratitude can literally rewire our brains, reducing stress hormones and fostering a sense of well-being. From a spiritual perspective, it does something even more profound. It shifts our posture from one of lack to one of abundance. You are reminding yourself and affirming to God that even in the midst of your challenges, your life is already filled with blessings. You are starting your conversation not as a pauper begging for scraps, but as a cherished child acknowledging the goodness already present. This gratitude becomes the fertile soil in which all other pillars of prayer can stand firm. It is the foundation of all true and lasting prosperity. The second pillar, the prayer of surrender. Once you have grounded yourself in gratitude, the next step is to release what you cannot control. So much of our mental and emotional energy is consumed by worry, a heavy, unproductive weight that we carry with us all day long. A prayer of surrender is the act of deliberately setting that weight down. Again, be specific. Name your burdens one by one, as if you are emptying a heavy backpack. God, I am handing this over to you now. I am surrendering my anxiety about the upcoming utility bill. I am surrendering my insecurity about my job performance. I am surrendering my fear of the future, of what might happen next month or next year. It is crucial to understand what surrender is and what it is not. Surrender is not giving up. It is not abandoning your responsibility. You will still open the bill. You will still go to work and do your best. Surrender is the act of releasing yourself from the toxic grip of anxiety about those things. It is acknowledging that worry itself is a useless activity. It doesn't pay the bill, and it doesn't improve your work. All it does is drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and steal your peace. Think of it this way. You cannot think clearly about solutions when your mind is hijacked by panic. When you consciously hand over your fears to a higher power, you are clearing your own mental workspace. You are creating the inner quiet necessary for clarity and wisdom to emerge. When you release the fear, you are making room for peace to enter. And as we discussed, peace is the ultimate resource for making wise decisions. The third pillar, the prayer of guidance. Now that you have established a foundation of gratitude and cleared your mind through surrender, you are in the perfect position to ask. But notice the shift in what we ask for. We are not coming with a detailed list of outcomes. Please give me this exact job, this specific amount of money, by this particular date. To do so is to assume we know best. Instead, we pray for wisdom. We pray for guidance. This is a prayer of humble partnership. God, please illuminate the next right step for me. Grant me the wisdom to manage what I have responsibly. Open my mind to a new idea, or show me a skill I need to learn. Guide my hands and my decisions today, that they may be aligned with your purpose for me. This type of prayer transforms you from a passive waiter into an active seeker. You are not waiting for a solution to be delivered to your doorstep. You are asking for the insight and the tools to become part of the solution yourself. It reflects a growth mindset, a belief that you can learn, adapt, and develop. Perhaps the guidance you receive won't be a sudden revelation, but a growing desire to take an online course in a new field, or the patience to sit down and finally learn how to create a proper budget. A prayer for guidance is a prayer that says, I am ready to learn, I am ready to grow, I am ready to do my part. The fourth pillar, the prayer of service. Finally, and perhaps most powerfully, we end our prayer by turning our focus outward. After tending to our own inner world, we remember that we are part of a larger whole. A life of true prosperity is not a dam that holds resources for itself, but a river that allows blessings to flow through it. This final pillar is about asking to be used for good. God, please use me as your instrument today. Show me an opportunity to help someone else. Let me be a source of encouragement for a person who is struggling. Allow me to use my talents, however humble, to bring value and light into the world. This prayer is the ultimate antidote to the self-centered fear that scarcity produces. When you pray to be a blessing to others, you are implicitly breaking your agreement with the idea of not enough. You are affirming your belief that you have enough to give enough time, enough compassion, enough energy. And in doing so, you align yourself with the universal spiritual law of sowing and reaping. You open yourself up to a flow of abundance because you have positioned yourself not as a final destination for blessings, but as a vital channel through which they can move. This is the most powerful declaration of prosperity you can make, because it is a statement that you trust the source of all abundance is limitless. Beyond the silence, when prayers seem unanswered. Now, we must address a difficult and deeply human experience, one that every person of faith encounters on their journey. It is the experience of silence. There will be days, and perhaps many days, even weeks or months, when you faithfully build your prayer on these 4 pillars. You will begin with gratitude, you will surrender your worries, you will ask for guidance, and you will offer yourself in service. You will do everything right, and in return, all you will hear is the echo of your own voice. The room will remain quiet. The stack of bills on the counter will not magically disappear. The anxiety you surrendered yesterday may creep back in today. And in that heavy silence, a painful question begins to form in the heart. Is anyone even listening? Have my prayers gone unheard? This is, perhaps, the most profound test of faith. It's easy to believe when prayers are answered quickly, when the path is clear and the blessings are flowing. But what about when the heavens seem to be made of brass? It's in these moments that we can feel most alone, most forgotten. Philosophers and mystics have a name for such periods. They call it the dark night of the soul. It is a time when the comforting feeling of God's presence seems to withdraw, leaving us to navigate by faith alone. If you are in such a season, or have ever been, it is vital to understand what this silence means and what it does not mean. The experience of countless generations before us, the wisdom passed down through the ages, tells us one thing with certainty. God's silence is not his absence. It is not a rejection. It is not a sign that you have failed or that your prayers are worthless. Instead, this silence is often a profound and active part of the process. Sometimes the silence is a test. It's a gentle crucible designed to refine our faith. It asks us a quiet question. Is our faith dependent on outcomes? Do we only trust when we get what we want? Or is our faith rooted in something deeper, a trust in the character of God, even when we cannot see his hand at work? A faith that can withstand the absence of immediate results is a faith that has matured from a fragile seedling into a deeply rooted tree. Sometimes, the silence is a preparation. We often pray for blessings that, in our current state, we are not yet ready to handle. Imagine praying for a great business opportunity. If that opportunity arrived tomorrow, would your character, your discipline, and your wisdom be ready to manage it well, or would it overwhelm you? Often, the period of silence is God's grace, giving you the time you need to grow into the person who can successfully steward the very blessing you are asking for. He is not withholding the gift. He is preparing you for it, so that when it arrives, it will be a true blessing and not a crushing burden. And sometimes, the silence is the answer. It is a loving invitation to stop talking and to simply listen on a deeper level. We can fill our prayer time with so many of our own words, our own plans, and our own anxieties that we leave no room for a divine whisper to get through. A period of silence can be a call to rest in the mystery, to let go of our need to control and understand everything, and to simply be present with the one who is always present with us, whether we feel it or not. So, what do we do when we find ourselves in that quiet, waiting space? We continue the practice. We show up. We continue to offer our gratitude, even if it feels difficult. We continue to surrender our worries, even if they return. We continue to ask for guidance, and we continue to offer ourselves in service. And in those moments of silence, our prayer can become the purest and most powerful of all. It can be distilled down to a single, courageous phrase: God, I don't understand, but I trust you. That is the prayer that shakes the heavens. Not the loud demands or the eloquent speeches, but the quiet, steadfast trust whispered in the dark. It is the unwavering belief that even when you cannot see the path, you are still being led. Trusting in the darkness, when there is no evidence to support it, is the purest fire of faith. And it is a fire that will always, eventually, be met by the dawn. As we conclude this part of our conversation, we can see that daily prayer is not a magic formula to solve every problem instantly. It's something far more valuable. It is a training regimen for the soul. It is the daily practice of keeping the channel open, the channel to divine wisdom, strength, and peace. Each day you engage in this dialogue, whether you feel an immediate result or not, you are doing important work. You are building a stronger inner fortress, a sanctuary within yourself that can withstand any storm the world might send your way. This practice equips you, it grounds you, and it prepares you for what comes next. And now, I'd like to invite you to take one specific, personal step. Think about the 4 pillars we discussed: gratitude, surrender, guidance, and service. As you reflect on them right now, which one resonates most deeply with you in this particular season of your life? Which pillar do you feel you need to focus on most intentionally this coming week? Perhaps it's gratitude, to counteract a feeling of lack. Maybe it's surrender, to release a specific, heavy worry. It could be guidance, as you face an important decision. Or perhaps it's service, feeling a call to look beyond your own needs. I encourage you to share that one word, gratitude, surrender, guidance, or service, in the comments below. By publicly stating your intention, you do more than just hold yourself accountable. You strengthen your own resolve, and, in a beautiful way, you might just inspire someone else in this community who needed to see that word today. And with that, we prepare for our final, most practical section. In the last and most important part of our time together, we will take all of this inner work and bring it into the real world. We will explore how to translate the peace and wisdom gained in prayer into concrete, measurable actions that build a strong financial future. Be sure you're ready for that essential, real-world step. From sanctuary to stewardship, living your miracle. Welcome to the final part of our journey together. In our first 2 parts, we have done vital, foundational work. We have built, together, an inner sanctuary, a place of refuge for the soul amidst the chaos of the world. We have learned to recognize the subtle miracles of clarity and courage, and we have explored how to nurture them through a daily dialogue with the divine. But now, the time has come to open the door of that sanctuary and step out into the tangible world. Because here is a profound truth. Faith does not just live in the quiet moments of prayer. True, living faith is most clearly seen on your balance sheet, in your bank statements, and in your daily spending habits. The peace and wisdom we cultivate in the sanctuary are not meant to stay there. They are meant to be the guiding force behind every financial decision we make. A miracle is not just a feeling of peace, it is a plan of action illuminated by that peace. This is where our faith becomes practical. It's where our hope gets its hands dirty. The ancient spiritual concept for this is stewardship. It's the idea that everything we have is not truly ours, but is a resource entrusted to us by God, and we have the honor and the responsibility to manage it wisely and faithfully. So, in this final section, we will explore 3 foundational principles of a wise steward. These are not complicated financial theories, but simple, powerful, and concrete actions that will help you translate your hope into reality and your faith into lasting financial stability. Stewardship Principle 1: The power of knowing the numbers. The first principle of a wise steward is clarity in reality, the power of knowing your numbers. Let's begin here, together, and let's be patient with ourselves, because for so many of us, this is the most difficult step. There is a very good reason we're starting with this. Most of us walk around with a kind of low-grade financial hum in the background of our lives. It's not always a loud alarm, but more of a constant, vague unease, a fog of uncertainty about where our money truly goes and where we honestly stand. And because of that unease, we often practice what psychologists call financial avoidance. We don't open the credit card statements right away. We let them sit on the counter for a few days. We might feel a pang of anxiety when we swipe our card at the grocery store, not entirely sure what the current balance island. We put off having serious conversations about retirement planning because it feels too big, too overwhelming, too far away. Why do we do this? It's not because we are lazy or irresponsible. We do this because, on a deep level, we are afraid of what the numbers will say about us. We're afraid they will become a measure of our worth. We're afraid they will sit in judgment of our past decisions, of our discipline, of our very character. We fear the numbers will confirm our deepest insecurities, that we are somehow failing, that we are not good enough, that we are falling behind. But here is the foundational principle that governs all good management. Whether you are the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation or the CEO of your own household budget, you cannot manage what you do not measure. You cannot steer a ship if you refuse to look at the map and the compass. The very clarity we prayed for in our quiet time, that gift of seeing the path forward, must begin with the courage to see where we are standing right now. And I want to propose to you that this act of looking is not an act of judgment. It is, in fact, one of the most profound acts of faith you can perform. Facing the truth without flinching is deeply spiritual. It is a quiet admission that you are ready to stop hiding from yourself and from God. It is a vulnerable and powerful moment where you effectively say, "Here I am. This is it, all of it. The successes, the mistakes, the debts, the fears. I'm laying it all out. I'm ready to be honest, so that you can guide me from where I truly am, not from where I've been pretending to be." So, how do we approach this sacred act in a way that feels empowering rather than terrifying? We start smaller than we think we need to. We take one brave, concrete, manageable step. Sometime this week, I invite you to schedule an appointment with yourself. Put it in your calendar. Find a half hour when you won't be rushed or interrupted. This is not a chore. This is a quiet meeting between you, your finances, and your faith. When the time comes, make yourself a cup of coffee or tea. Sit in a comfortable chair. Take a few deep breaths. Then, take out a clean sheet of paper from a notebook and a pen you enjoy writing with. Or, if you prefer, open a new, blank spreadsheet on your computer. This is your blank slate. At the top of the page, simply write the words, "My financial snapshot." Insert the current month. Now, draw a line down the middle of the page. At the top of the left column, write the word "in." At the top of the right column, write the word "out." That is the entire structure. In and out. Simple, non-judgmental. Let's begin with the "in" column. With as much accuracy as you can, and without any emotional commentary, list every stream of income that came into your household over the last 30 days. Your primary paycheck after taxes have been taken out, any income from a side job or a small business, a birthday check from a relative, the money you got from selling that old piece of furniture, everything. Write each source down, and then, at the bottom of the column, write the total. This number is simply a fact. It is the resource you had to work with this past month. Now, take another deep breath. We're going to turn to the "out" column. This is often the part that feels more intimidating, so we will be especially gentle with ourselves here. Your task is not to justify or regret a single purchase. Your only job is to be a quiet, faithful witness to what happened. Go through your bank and credit card statements from the last 30 days. List each expense: the mortgage or rent payment, the car loan, the insurance premiums, groceries, gas for the car, the utility bills, the phone bill, that spontaneous lunch with a friend, the book you bought online, the morning coffee you grab on your way to work. Be a gentle, curious detective. You might notice patterns you were unaware of, but for now, resist the urge to analyze. Just record. No number is good or bad. It's just information. Once you've done your best to capture it all, total up the "out" column at the bottom. This act is not about creating a strict, restrictive budget, that is a different tool for a different day. Today's act is about one thing and one thing only: awareness. You are simply and bravely turning on the lights in a room you may have been navigating in the dark for a very long time. As you do this, you might feel a knot of anxiety tightening in your stomach. You might feel a wave of shame or regret. Acknowledge these feelings. They are normal. They are the predictable reaction of fear as it begins to lose its power over you. Fear thrives in the unknown, in the vague, shadowy corners of our minds, where problems can grow to monstrous proportions. But when you write a number down on an actual piece of paper, you drag it out of the shadows and into the light. It becomes finite. It becomes known, and anything that is known can be managed. The results of this exercise will be what they will be. You might be pleasantly surprised to find you are in a better position than you imagined. You might be shocked to see where your money has been going. Most likely, the reality will be somewhere in between. But regardless of what the numbers say, you will now be standing in a position of quiet strength and power that you were not in before. Because the truth, even when it is difficult, is never as damaging as the shapeless, free-floating monster of our anxiety. This single sheet of paper is not a report card on your personal worth. It is a map. And it is only when you know exactly where you are standing on that map that you can begin to pray with real clarity, with real focus, for guidance on where to go next. You can now take this map, this honest snapshot, and bring it into your dialogue with God. Your prayer can transform. It shifts from a worried and vague, "God, please help me with my money," to a focused, grounded and powerful, "God, you see these numbers, you see this map of my reality. Thank you for the courage to face it. Now, please grant me the wisdom to see just one area where I can make a positive change. Show me the next right step, however small it may be." This simple, foundational act of knowing your numbers is the first, most crucial step in transforming your financial life. It is the practical application of the courage and the clarity we have been talking about. It is the humble, honest beginning of becoming a wise, faithful, and truly empowered steward of the resources you have been entrusted with. Stewardship Principle 2. Purposeful Persistence. Once we have bravely turned on the lights with the first principle of clarity, we are no longer standing in the dark. We have our map. We know our starting point. Now, we move from the crucial act of knowing to the transformative act of doing. This brings us to the second, and perhaps most hope-filled, principle of a wise steward: purposeful persistence, sowing seeds for the future. This principle is about fundamentally shifting our perspective. So many of us, when we're under financial pressure, live in a reactive, short-term survival mode. Our focus is entirely on getting through this week, on paying this month's bills, and that is necessary. But if we only live in that mode, we will never build a different future. This principle, then, is about building a sturdy bridge between the reality of your life today and the vision of the life you hope to live, a life with more stability, more security, and the deep, abiding peace that comes with it. To truly grasp this, I want you to picture a wise farmer. The work of a farmer is a masterclass in faith and foresight. At the end of a long, toilsome harvest, when the barns are full, the farmer could choose to consume every single grain. It would be a season of plenty, a feast for his family. But to do so would be to guarantee a hungry winter and, more importantly, a barren spring. It would be a short-term comfort at the cost of a long-term future. So, what does the wise farmer do? He always, without fail, sets aside a portion of the very best seeds from the current harvest. He doesn't set aside the broken or inferior grains. He selects the strongest ones. This portion is not for consumption, it is sacred, it is the promise of the future. This act requires immense discipline, especially in lean years. It requires foresight, the ability to see beyond today's needs to tomorrow's potential. And most of all, it requires a profound and practical faith, a deep-seated trust that the seeds committed to the cold, dark earth today will, through a process they cannot fully control, become the life-sustaining harvest of tomorrow. In exactly the same way, a wise steward of their finances learns not to consume everything that comes in. They intentionally, prayerfully, set aside a portion, however small it may feel, to sow into their own future. This timeless, practical act of faith is what we now call saving and investing. Now, right at this point, a powerful and familiar barrier often rises up in our minds. It is the loud, convincing voice of scarcity that we spoke of earlier. And it says something like this: "That is a lovely idea for other people, but you don't understand my situation. I am stretched so thin, I am just trying to get by. I have nothing extra. I will start saving when I get a raise, when the kids are grown, when things calm down." This is one of the most effective and pervasive lies that keeps people in a cycle of financial struggle. It presents a logical-sounding argument that saving is a luxury, an act reserved for the wealthy. But the truth, proven over generations, is the precise opposite. The consistent habit of saving, even in the smallest of amounts, is what builds the foundation for wealth. So, let us dismantle this barrier right now with a fundamental, liberating truth. You must start from where you are, with what you have, not from where you wish you were. The transformative power of this principle, especially at the beginning, is not in the dollar amount you set aside. The true power is in the formation of the habit. Saving $5 this week is not truly about the $5. That single bill is not going to revolutionize your financial future on its own. But the act of consciously setting it aside, that act is a quiet revolution. It is a physical declaration of hope. It is a weekly statement you make to yourself and to God that says, "I believe in a future that is more secure than my present. I trust that there will be a tomorrow that will need this seed I am planting today, and I am choosing to act on that belief right now, with what I have." This simple, consistent act begins to change you from the inside out. It subtly rewires your identity. You begin to see yourself not as someone who is always behind, always just struggling to catch up, but as a planner, a builder, a forward thinker, a sower. It is a profound spiritual and psychological shift from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of stewardship. Let's make this real. Imagine you look at your newly created financial snapshot and you decide, with intention, to start with just $10 a week. You go online and set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a separate savings account, perhaps one you even nickname Future Fund. The transfer happens every Friday, automatically, without you having to think about it. That $10 might seem insignificant against the backdrop of your larger expenses, but every Friday, when that transfer happens, it is a quiet, consistent victory. It is a small act of hope being put into practice. After a year of these small, faithful acts, you will look at that account and see over $500. It may not be a fortune, but it is tangible evidence of your persistence. It is an emergency fund for a sudden car repair that, for the first time, won't have to go on a high-interest credit card. It is the real, tangible fruit of your newfound habit. And here is where the true miracle of sowing begins to unfold. Once you have built a small cushion of savings, you can begin to consider the next step: investing. If saving is like storing seeds in a safe place, investing is like planting those seeds in fertile ground where they can grow. It is the process of putting your money to work for you. It's like planting a seed that grows into a small apple tree, which then produces its own apples, each containing more seeds. This is the principle of compound interest, and it has been called the eighth wonder of the world for a reason. It is the powerful force that allows small, consistent actions, when given the gift of time, to grow into something truly substantial. This concept is especially crucial for those of us who are in our 40 seconds, 50 seconds, and beyond, who are thinking seriously about retirement. The financial security of our later years will not be built on a single lucky break. It will be built on the bedrock foundation of years, even decades, of these small, faithful acts of sowing. Every dollar you manage to save is a seed of peace being planted in the soil of your future. Every small, regular contribution to a retirement account is another brick being laid in the foundation of a wall that will protect you and your family from the inevitable financial storms of life. This is not a get-rich-quick fantasy. This is a get-secure, slowly but surely path. It requires the virtue of patience in a world that screams for instant gratification. It requires a long-term vision in a culture that is often short-sighted. But this slow, steady, persistent work is one of the most profound expressions of faith in action you can undertake. It is a tangible demonstration of your trust that the small, faithful choices you make today are creating a harvest of security, stability, and peace that your future self will one day be so deeply grateful for. This is how we take the hope we cultivate in prayer and begin to weave it, thread by faithful thread, into the very fabric of our future. Stewardship Principle 3: Intentional Generosity. Now we come to the third principle of a wise manager. This is, in many ways, the culmination of our entire journey together. It is the principle that elevates our financial life from a mere exercise in management to a profound expression of our deepest spiritual purpose. We have moved from the inner work of achieving clarity and cultivating peace in prayer to the practical work of planning our finances and planting seeds for our future. This last principle is what allows the harvest to flow. It is the principle of intentional generosity, breaking the chains of scarcity. At first, this may sound deeply counterintuitive. After all, the diligent work to gain clarity on our numbers, to face our financial realities, and to discipline ourselves to save for the future, why would the very next step be to deliberately give some of it away? It seems to fly in the face of every conventional piece of financial advice we've ever heard. And that is precisely the point. This principle is not about financial strategy in the worldly sense. It is about spiritual posture. It is about the ultimate act of faith, the final key that unlocks a sustainable and joyful flow of abundance in our lives. To understand its power, we must first look unflinchingly at its opposite. The greatest fear born from a scarcity mindset, the core belief that secretly drives so much of our anxiety, is this insidious whisper: if I give, I will not have enough. It's the deep-seated fear that all resources, money, time, energy, are finite and scarce. It paints a picture of life as a zero-sum game, a constant competition where one person's gain is another's loss. This fear compels us to live with clenched fists, to hoard what we have, to guard our resources jealously, and to view the needs of others not with compassion, but as a potential threat to our own fragile security. But the spiritual law of the kingdom of heaven, the very physics of the divine economy, operates on a completely opposite principle. It is a profound and beautiful paradox. A clenched fist, in its effort to hold on to what it has, cannot receive anything new. It is a closed system. It is only an open hand, a hand that is relaxed and ready, willing both to give and to receive, that can participate in the constant, dynamic, and life-giving flow of abundance. Therefore, generosity is the ultimate act of defiance against the tyranny of fear. It is the most powerful and practical way to break the chains of a scarcity mindset once and for all. Every single act of giving, no matter how small it may seem to the outside world, is a thunderous declaration of faith in the spiritual realm. It is a tangible statement that you choose to believe you live in a universe of abundance, not of lack. It is a profound affirmation that your ultimate source of security is not your 401 or your savings account, but the limitless, inexhaustible source of all good things. Now, it is absolutely critical to understand where and when this practice of generosity begins. It is not a luxury reserved for the wealthy. It is not a goal you aspire to after you have millions of dollars safely tucked away in the bank. That is a trick of the scarcity mindset, which will always tell you, just a little more, then you can be generous. The truth is, if you are not a generous person with a little, you will not be a generous person with a lot. The habit, the posture of the heart, the spiritual muscle of giving, it is formed now, with what you have. Intentional generosity doesn't have to be about grand, dramatic gestures. It is cultivated in the small, conscious decisions we make every single day. It is the simple decision to buy a hot cup of coffee for the homeless person you see every morning on your way to work, looking them in the eye and offering them a moment of human connection. It's the choice to leave a slightly larger tip than is expected for a server who seems to be having a genuinely hard day. It is the act of setting up a small, regular, automatic donation, even just $5 or $10 a month, to a local food bank, an animal shelter, your church, or a cause that you truly believe is making the world a better place. Generosity can also be expressed with our non-financial resources. It can be the choice to spend an hour on a Saturday helping an elderly neighbor with their yard work. It can be the act of sharing your professional expertise and mentoring a young person who is just starting out in their career. Each of these acts is a powerful antidote to the poison of selfishness and anxiety. They instantly shift our focus from our own needs, our own worries, our own internal monologue of lack, to the needs of others. And in that outward shift, something truly miraculous happens to our inner world. We begin to feel richer. Psychological studies have consistently and overwhelmingly shown something that spiritual wisdom has taught for millennia. People who engage in pro-social spending, that is, using their resources to benefit others, report significantly higher and more sustained levels of happiness and life satisfaction than when they spend money on themselves. The fleeting thrill of a new purchase fades quickly, but the deep, resonant joy of having made a positive difference in someone else's life lingers. The act of giving floods our brains with neurochemicals that create profound feelings of joy, purpose, and connection. It fulfills a deep, innate human need to be part of something larger than ourselves. When you begin to practice intentional generosity, you are actively aligning yourself with the very current of life itself. You are participating in the divine flow of giving and receiving. You are stating, through your actions, a profound trust that as you give, so shall you be provided for. This is not a transactional formula where we give $5 with the secret expectation of getting $10 back. That is still a form of scarcity, just cleverly disguised. This is a deeper, more mature trust in a universal principle of circulation. Think of a mighty river. A river that hoards its water, that refuses to flow, quickly becomes a stagnant, lifeless swamp. But a river that flows freely, giving its water to the fields and forests along its banks, brings life to everything it touches, and all the while, it is constantly being replenished from its source in the mountains. As you begin to live this way, as an open channel rather than a closed reservoir, you will discover the ultimate financial miracle. You will realize that true wealth is not about accumulation, but about circulation. You will find that the greatest joy is not in what you have, but in what you are able to give. The security you were so desperately seeking through fearful hoarding will be replaced by a profound sense of purpose and trust that you find in becoming a channel of blessing in the world. This is the final, beautiful step in your journey from fear to faith, from scarcity to true, lasting, and deeply meaningful abundance. And so, we come to the end of our time together, but to the very beginning of a new chapter in your life. We have traveled a long way on this journey. We started by listening for the promise of a miracle, redefining it not as a stroke of luck, but as a profound internal gift. We then moved into the sanctuary of the heart, learning how to build a daily dialogue with the divine through the 4 pillars of prayer. And finally, we have taken that inner peace and wisdom and learned how to translate it into concrete, practical steps in the real world. We have seen that a true financial miracle is not a destination we arrive at one day. It is the journey itself. It is the daily process of becoming a wiser, more courageous, more peaceful, and more generous person. It is the transformation from a fearful consumer into a faithful steward. This path is not always easy, but you are not alone on it. The very fact that you have stayed with this message, that you have journeyed through these ideas and reflections, says something powerful about your heart and your readiness for change. And on that note, I have a small personal request. If you are still listening to my voice at this very moment, would you do me the honor of commenting with the simple words, "I'm still here," below? It would mean the world to me. Seeing those words lets me know that there are friends walking this path alongside me, and your presence is truly the greatest encouragement for me to continue sharing messages like this. And now, for your final step today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and faith without action is just a pleasant thought. So, what will your one small step be? I invite you to choose just one tangible action from our discussion in this final section. Just one. Perhaps your step is to schedule that quiet appointment with your finances to finally get clarity on your numbers. Maybe it's to set up that automatic $5 transfer into a savings account, or perhaps it's to intentionally perform one small act of generosity for someone else before your head hits the pillow tonight. Whatever it is, choose just one, and if you feel comfortable, share your commitment in the comments as well. Not for praise, but as a quiet declaration to yourself and to this community that you are ready to begin. Because your miracle does not start tomorrow. It starts now with the very next small, faithful step you take. May the deep peace and guiding wisdom of God be with you always, not just in your moments of prayer, but in every small decision you make. Go forward and walk as the wise, hopeful, and faithful steward you were created to be. Your true journey has only just begun.